Son of a bitch! The conductor continued to the end of the car, turned around, and started back. Look, I said, I need to get off. Can you stop at the next station? He paused a moment, seemingly confused. I'm sorry, sir, we can only stop if the signal is red. And who determines if the signal is red or green? Why, the station master, of course. I could see this was going nowhere fast. Kind of like the train itself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must make my rounds. Yeah, knock yourself out. I sat there trying to wrap my head around my predicament. 2 more identical stations rushed by before I determined to take things into my own hands. First off, I tried to make my way forward into the engine compartment. Again, I was thwarted by an unbeatable lock. I was contemplated waylaying the conductor for a key when I spied some buildings in the distance past the trees. It was the only time I had seen anything like that, so I decided to make a break for it. I moved to the space between the first 2 cars and stashed my sword in my pack so I wouldn't skewer myself on it. Then waited until the train slowed slightly to negotiate a curve. Taking a deep breath, I leaped off the train and rolled down the embankment. It hurt like hell and I nearly lost consciousness. As I laid prone at the bottom, some of the demonic passengers pointed and gestured at me animatedly. None of them chose to follow my lead. Thank goodness for my healing ring. It seemed I hadn't broken any bones. However, my ankle and knee were severely sprained, and it took several minutes of ring massage to get them back to normal. Before me loomed the prospect of traversing the thick woods on a nearly empty stomach. Hopefully, Bigfoot would have no further interest in me. After a deep gulp of water, I began to make my way through the trees. At least it was shady. After a couple of hours hiking away from the tracks, the trees began to thin, and I came across what appeared to be a game path. I followed that until I sensed an approaching clearing. Even before I reached the opening, I began to hear barking and snarls coming from up ahead. I advanced slowly through the final trees. When I reached the A-gap, I peeked around the edge of a tree and saw what was causing the disturbance. There were about a dozen of the hellhounds in a standoff with a huge German shepherd. It was amazing that the dog was holding its own, but it was bleeding from multiple wounds and couldn't possibly last long. With newfound courage from my healing ring, I leapt into the fray and sliced the rear leg off the nearest hellhound. That put it out of commission, but his pack immediately turned on me and refocused their attack. Luckily, this created an opening for the shepherd, and it began chomping on its adversaries with gusto. I chopped down and decapitated another beast with an accompanying arm tingle, then hacked open the snout of another, but it was rapidly becoming apparent I had bitten off more than I could chew. There was a metal door behind the shepherd, so I made a run for that, where fortunately the dog could run interference for me. To my great relief, the door was unlocked and I dashed inside. A hellhound stuck its muzzle into the opening before I could shut the door, only to meet my sword jammed between its eyes. The world exploded with light and power as I gained another level. Accordingly, I bashed the door open and went back on offense. The hellhounds must have smelled my assurance, because after a doomed show of aggression, they began to retreat. I showed no mercy as I raced after them with my enhanced speed and cut them down from behind. Soon there was only one left, and it was sprinting away towards the woods. In my heightened state, I hurled my sword after it and skewered it in the ass. By the time I retrieved my weapon, the rush had worn off. Miraculously, I had emerged from the battle with only a few scrapes and nips, which quickly healed as I rubbed them with my ringed hand. The German shepherd was eyeing me uncertainly, its lip lifted in a warning snarl as it issued a steady low growl. I stashed my sword and raised my hands peacefully before pulling a slice of beef jerky out of my pack. That instantly got the dog's attention, and when I tossed him the meat, he gulped it down without chewing and licked his lips. I brought out another piece and held it out while slowly edging forward. As I got closer, I elevated the jerky just out of reach while extending my gloved left hand. I dropped the morsel into his mouth while I risked giving him a pat on the head. I was a bit surprised when my hand tingled and the shepherd's wounds started to heal. The dog was startled, but did not pull away. Before long, it was completely healed and licked my hand appreciatively. I had made a new friend. I gave him one more slice of jerky to seal the deal. "Good boy," I said. "Now what shall I call you?" He had a metal spiked collar. "All right then, Spike it is. Come on, boy, let's see what's behind that door."